Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're back. We are slowly but surely trying to get the lighting figured out in here. It's directional improvements, sure, but obviously we've got a long way to go. I just spent a bunch of time like taping up parts of lamps to try and do like a whatever. Didn't really work out, so we're gonna work with what we got today, and that's okay. Last week I talked about that I was down weight. I'm gonna start getting it back. I believe I talked about the fact that I spoke with a trainer because I had a free hour on my account. So I was like, yo, hook me up, which is pretty cool. I've started splitting my big shake. Pretty sure I said that, but now we're a week later and we are putting more weight up. I was at 185 at the lowest, which I'm down from 210, which is what I was normally walking around at. So pretty stark. But now we're back at like 195 to 197 3-day average. That's not bad. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. It's literally just getting meals in. I was just missing meals. That was it. It's hard to keep weight on if you don't eat, right? Right. Who would have thought? But that's good. That means that hopefully my strength will start going up as well. Oh, I received a gift. Hopefully that means my strength will start going up as well. Because, dude, I got to lock in 315 on bench soon. Like, as soon as possible. I'd really like to lock in 315 at least in squat. But I think 405 is going to be a number that I'm more happy with. But that's a long way out because my squat is bad. It is bad. It is bad. But I feel like I'm rushing. I can kind of chill out a little bit. It's okay. It's all right. We're not in a hurry. I am successfully off a pretty wicked nicotine binge. That was the longest one I'd done in a while, which has been kind of disappointing, if I'm honest. Typically, when I use nicotine, it's always for a relatively short period of time. Typically, when I come back, I get this big, and not just specifically nicotine, but that's the most common example, but whenever I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing and I stop doing that thing, typically I get this like release of energy. And I can feel like more clarity and I can feel better on the other side. But I mean, there's been some change, but really not that much. Typically I feel a greater stability in my emotional states. My reactions to things are more predictable, just more regulated in general. But I feel like that hasn't really happened. It's been long enough that it should have already, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe there's other issues at play. I don't know, but I gotta check that out. But the point is that I'm off the nicotine, and it was a clean break too. So I don't know if I've discussed this in the past, but when quitting nicotine, in my experience, there's two kinds. There's a clean break and there's a dirty break. And a clean break is like, I say I quit, and then I don't use it, and I'm fine. And that's it. End of story. There's no real withdrawal symptoms. It's just a taper off of the feeling and a taper on of normalcy. And then there's a dirty break, which is like 1 to 3 days of being pissy and annoyed, and then return to normalcy. And it was a totally clean break. And yet, like, I haven't been irritable. I've been fine. And yet, here we are. So I don't know. Maybe it's still, there's some lurking around in my bloodstream somewhere or something. I have no idea, but I'm a little disappointed, to be honest. Almost disappointed enough to try again, so to speak. But I'm not ready to make that decision quite yet. But anywho, that's something new. Just to stay on the topic of health-wise, I haven't technically started. I have added stretching to my weekly schedule, because also when I sat down with the trainer, it kind of became very apparent that the stretching that I was doing, which was basically just sitting in a massage bed for 10 minutes every day that I go to the gym, was not really sufficient. It was not actually doing what I wanted it to do, and I could certainly be recovering better, which is what I would like, especially if I'm going to keep going up in weight. So I'm certainly not going to start yoga today, but it is on the docket. So instead, I'm just going to start doing some stretches ease into it, do 15 minutes, probably 3 or 4 times a week, see how that goes, and then make adjustments from there. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that because I feel a little blocky. It's like watching the Trend Twins on camera when they move and they're like, mop, 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 mop. Not that I'm an avid Trend Twin watcher, but yeah, that's how I feel when I move around. I feel stiff, and I feel like not only is that, in my mind, an increased risk of injury, but also it's just not cool. I feel like I'd like to be able to use my body more effectively and more athletically in any sense. Not to mention, I'd like to be able to do a handstand. I'd like to be able to do some calisthenics moves. I'd like to be able to do a backflip. And so the fact that I'm stiff is not making me happy. So I want to start working on that, but ease into it. It's a new habit, so I want to take it relatively slow. But speaking of weekly schedules, I have already realized and I believe spoken on what I think the usefulness of Notion is, or rather the level of usefulness of Notion. I had already been using it for some things. Most importantly, the thing that I use it for most consistently is for my historical research notes. I take notes on paper and then I follow up by porting them into Notion and organizing them and expanding them. So it's like a 2-part process. And so that alone has shown me the immense use that Notion has, because I can collapse months of work into 3 lines and I can open it all back up as well. So space-wise, it's pretty damn efficient. But I just felt like my design as far as organization was pretty lame, pretty basic, pretty simple. And I felt like there's certainly, when you backslash on a Notion page, you have all these options for what to insert there in terms of organization or in terms of input. And I was using maybe 4 of the options there. So I did a little bit of research to see what people were able to do so that I can kind of get an idea of what I wanted. So long story short, I got all these projects that are different levels of priority that are always open. I have upwards of 10 pretty much at any given time. And at first, I've got these whiteboards on the walls here, but I started writing it out and I was going to have the top 5 or 6 most highest priority items on there with their bulleted points of what needs to happen in order to complete that job. But I started doing it and it was ugly and just took up space. I didn't enjoy it at all. And so I thought maybe there was a Notion solution that we could do. The thing that I did notice is the dopamine differences for sure. At least when I engage in things like nicotine that give you the reward without any effort, it makes it more difficult for sure to get things done, because I can get happy chemicals super easy, so why would I put any extra effort into the things that are hard to do that give me the same amount of chemistry, or even less sometimes. And so I have noticed an uptick in productive behaviors for sure, but as far as that's one of 5 things that normally happens on the transitionary period, and that's not ideal. So we'll see what's going on there. But anyways, so I did look up a bunch of tutorials on how to organize a to-do list, and then with those I kind of created, I basically just copy and pasted what they did on the video with a few minor tweaks, and then just instead of a to-do list, I made it like a project board. So now there's a whole page on my Notion, which I can probably show at some point. I might do a Notion tour someday. That'd be pretty sick. The more that I use it, I don't think it's impressive enough yet to flex that and really illustrate the usefulness. But I would like to live on Notion a lot more. I would like to make that my home base. That's where I operate everything out of. That's what I would like to do. I think it has certainly the potential for that. I think it can facilitate that. I think that it can be the place where that can happen. I just need to learn how to use it better. And that's underway. So I'm very excited, especially about that page in general. And then I also did some work on my agriculture and planting page, created like a journal entry system so that I can note things that I notice, things that I do as I do them. So like if I have a bunch of stuff that I repotted like 15 different things or more the other day. So I did document all of that and what I noticed, because I would like to get a little bit more empirical or more scientific about my process and how I deal with these plants. Because like I notice a lot of these things, but I feel like not writing it down really doesn't do any favors, especially for future me. If I want to be like, oh, how do I cure this disease? This is what I did in the past. Yeah. So yeah, Notion improvements for sure. I'm very excited about that, and schedule improvements as well. This all kind of goes hand in hand, man. Like this year, I want to, but really I need to lock in more. I'm not satisfied with my level of commitment to any of the things that I have going on. I'm satisfied with the direction that I've been moving in generally, but I certainly can do better. And it's been very apparent to me lately how much free time I really have, and how much of that time gets wasted because I don't have a plan for it. So yeah, that needs to improve. I didn't write this down, but since we're talking about improvements, financially, things are stabilizing even more so. That is very exciting. There are very few things that are on my list that are needs, and then after that I can just bank and bank and bank, and save for some more important things that are on the horizon. So that's very exciting. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, dude. I gotta just get back in the flow of things, I think. Maybe I'm a little dehydrated or something, but I can notice a certain mental deficiency that I'm not happy with. But that might just be an effort thing, because there certainly is nutritional and behavioral, well, we'll say nutritional differences in my mental acuity, if I'm using that correctly. Like if I'm not as well fed as I should be, if I'm not as well hydrated as I should be, and if I haven't taken sufficient vitamins, I notice a mental decline. And then I also notice that if I'm not being very productive, my brain just works less. If I'm not putting this thing to work, it doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. But the more I work it, to a certain extent, obviously, the better it functions all the time, even in between tasks. So that could certainly be it. But I will keep you posted on that one. But yeah, I think that's freaking pretty much all I got today. I'm going to try and stay on these. Like I said, I really want to start busting out some more vlogs. I'm very excited about that, but there's some things that need to happen. So not immediate future, but next to immediate future. That's something that's going to take place. Just a few more things I got to button up, and then we're freaking ready to rock and roll. But yeah, so that's all I got for today. I will update you and me on what is to come. But yeah, I'm excited for the near future. Things are looking pretty good. So yeah, let's get after it, baby. Nick out.